and it began illegally. And hopefully somebody's going to look at the other side. This was an illegal takedown. There are a lot of people out there that have done some very, very evil things, very bad things, I would say treasonous things against our country. And hopefully that people that have done such harm to our country, we've gone through a period of really bad things happening. Those people will certainly be looked at. I've been looking at them for a long time, and I'm saying, why haven't they been looked at? They lied to Congress. Many of them, you know who they are. They've done so many evil things. We've had that hanging over us now from the very, very beginning. And yet the other side, they don't even bother looking. And the other side is where there are crimes.
With 20 days until Election Day, the Trump vision for his second term is being spelled out in very clear terms. You might remember that a couple days ago we walked through comments Trump made over the weekend about using the National Guard or the military to go after his political opponents. Here's what he said.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Now, Trump went on to name drop Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California, who's running for the Senate, labeling Schiff one of those so-called enemies from within. Now, when we presented all of this to Virginia's Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin on Monday, he refused to accept that Trump said what he said. I'm talking about Donald Trump saying that he wants to use the National Guard and the military to go after the left. That's what he's saying.
I don't believe that's what he's saying. But listen, you and I are going to argue about that. But I would suggest if you would also.
I played the quote and I read it to you.
If you would also
you
balance
can wish that he weren't saying that, but that's what he's saying.
Jake, all the time people are taking little snippets of content and turning it into a big narrative.
It was not taken out of context, as often happens when Mr. Trump makes claims that seem to push the boundaries of traditional discourse, and obviously using the military to go after political rivals qualifies. Mr. Trump continued to make it clear that the rather creative interpretations from Governor Youngkin and other Trump surrogates of his remarks were incorrect, and that in fact he was saying exactly what he seemed to be saying. Here's what Trump said today when asked about his enemy from within remarks during a town hall on Fox.
They're very, very different. And it is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're dangerous for our country. We have China, we have Russia, we have all these countries. If you have a smart president, they can all be handled. The more difficult are, the Pelosi's, these people, they're so sick and they're so evil.
This is obviously unprecedented in American life, mainstream American life anyway, for a nominee to be talking about using the military against their political opponents, domestic political opponents, and obviously doing so would significantly change the nature of the United States. Recall that someone who had already heard horrific and baseless conspiracy theories about Democrats and the Pelosi's actually broke into the home of the Pelosi's and attacked Paul Pelosi with a hammer, fracturing his skull, leaving him with severe problems. And there's more. Trump not only says that the Nancy Pelosi's and the Adam Schiffs should be, quote, handled, he also said this about what a second Trump term would mean for the free press.
The news is really fake. That's the one we really have to straighten. We have to straighten out our press because we have a corrupt press.
Now, I don't know what it means that the press needs to be straightened.
That American citizens who collaborate with the enemy have considered enemy combatants.
They can be. They can be. They're sometimes criminally prosecuted, sometimes treated in the military.
Well, let's talk about can be. I think
under Supreme Court precedent.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a Supreme Court decision that said that American citizens who collaborated with Nazi saboteurs were tried by the military. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I think a couple of them were executed.
Yeah.
So if anybody doubts, there's a long-standing history in this country that your constitutional rights follow you wherever you go, but you don't have a constitutional right to turn on your own government, collaborate with the enemy of the nation. You'll be treated differently.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interests, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government.
This was not an election. This was a revolution. This was a revolution.
And I look in this room and I see all of you and I think, wow, have we come a long way in 4 years. To the men and women of Cyber Command, and not just Cyber Command, the components, our teammates, our partners, those who power this cyber enterprise, I want to say thank you for what you've done over the last 4 years. 4 years ago, we were handed a structure and a plan. Our job was to take that structure and that plan, build it out, create a vision, operationalize this idea, and ensure that it was integrated into the broader set of activities executed by the Department of Defense. And while doing this, increase the defensibility of the Department of Defense information networks, think about how we're going to safeguard its weapons, its systems, its platforms, its data. Think about how we're going to generate more offensive capability designed to give our policymakers and our operational commanders a greater range of options. And with all of that, 18 months ago, we say we're going to take on ISIS as our first real challenge on the offensive side. You think about what we've done there, taking them on in the battlefields of Syria and Iraq, the things we've done that we're not going to get into in the information arena. I know what you've done. The leadership of this nation knows what you have done. The leadership of this department knows what you have done. It is a reflection of this organization, the Department of Defense, and this government's belief in you that we will elevate Cyber Command to a combatant commander as General Nakasone assumes his role. That is a testament to you and everything that you have done. And I and the nation thank you for that. General Nakasone will be an inspired leader for you. He will take this even further. Because I agree with the DepSecDef. We got a great vision, I think. We got a great way forward. Now it's about how do we generate capacity on a global scale. And that will bring its own set of challenges. But I know that you are up to that challenge. To the men and women of the National Security Agency and the service cryptologic elements and the broader global SIGINT enterprise, thank you for what you do for this nation. We have had a challenging time in the past 4 years. I can remember one time sitting there talking to the leadership team at NSA as we were thinking to ourselves, so how are we going to deal with some of this? And I'm as my family knows, I love movies and I love music. And one of the things that struck me was Apollo 13. When people are saying, oh, this is terrible, we're going to lose the crew, we're going to lose the mission. And the then mission commander turns to the group and says, this will not be our worst day, this will be our best day. Because we will not define ourselves by adversity, but we will define ourselves how a group of motivated men and women come together to make a difference for this nation, our friends, and our allies. And you have done that in spades. This nation entrusts us with an amazing set of capabilities. We are given access to data of incredible sensitivity. We must continue to safeguard that, ensure the appropriate security, and to remember the trust the nation places in us. We execute our critical mission of foreign intelligence and cybersecurity at NSA within a legal framework and a set of policies that we follow to the letter. That is our strength. That is what generates the confidence of this nation that these many resources that are granted to us are being used appropriately, wisely, and in the best interests of the citizens we serve.
You guys know what this represents? It's the calm before the storm.
What's the storming?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out. They're having a good day. I'm having a good day too. It was called No Collusion, No Obstruction. I'm having There never was, by the way, and there never will be. And we do have to get to the bottom of these things, I will say.
More breaking news tonight. President Trump has ordered the immediate declassification and public release of several key pages from that FISA application the FBI used in order to get a warrant to spy on Carter Page. According to a statement from the White House, the release will also include, quote, all text messages relating to the Russia investigation without redaction of James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr. Holy underwear. It is unclear when the public will see these documents, but Democrats like Adam Schiff are already crying foul, while Republicans like Mark Meadows are applauding the president for shining a light on what they claim is bias within the DOJ and FBI.
So somebody took that information that we gained through collection with Flynn and gave it to the Washington Post.
Somehow it got to the media, that's clearly.
That is a crime.
And that's a leak, and that is illegal, yes, sir.
Okay. Are you concerned about people taking the law in their own hands, no matter how noble they think the event may be?
Oh, yes, sir, which is why I've gone to my workforce in writing and said, let's make sure we understand what the professional ethos of our organization is. We do not, if I could finish, sir, we do not engage in this behavior. And if I catch you engaging in this behavior, I will hold you criminally liable, and you have no place in this
Chairman,
organization.
I beg for 30 additional sections.
Sure.
Okay. The bottom line here, it is possible for the Congress to find out who requests unmasking of American citizens, who that information was given to, and that is possible for us to know.
On the NSA side, and that's part of the ongoing investigation with the primary oversight committees that we're going through right now.
Okay. Do you know if Susan Rice ever asked for an American citizen to be unmasked?
I'd have to pull the data, sir. I apologize.
Thank you.
Report. Today, major news, the Attorney General Barr vowing to hold them accountable. This is key. And what the Hill's John Solomon is calling, quote, the single sentence Russia bombshell that Barr delivered to Congress today that very few in the media picked up on. But this is crucial. Take a look.
The Office of the Inspector General has a pending investigation of the FISA process in the Russian investigation, and I expect that will be complete probably in May or June, I am told. More generally, I am reviewing the conduct of the investigation, and trying to get my arms around all the aspects of the counterintelligence investigation that was conducted during the summer of 2016.
And now reports tonight Barr will form a team to review the FBI's actions during the so-called phony collusion probe. The pendulum is swinging. The boomerang is now headed right back at the top. Deep state actors, they will all be held accountable. Mark my words, criminal indictments are coming. And as we have reported, Congressman Devin Nunes is preparing criminal referrals as we speak for this very week. Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows saying that even more criminal referrals are on the way because of, quote, overwhelming evidence of abuse of power at the highest levels of the DOJ and the FBI. And we will be getting the Inspector General's report, as the Attorney General just mentioned, and the FISA applications against Carter Page and the results of the FISA investigation in the Senate. And at some point, we'll also be getting the report into leaks by John Huber. And we'll also be getting the 302s. That's the transcripts between, let's say, Bruce Orr and Christopher Steele. We'll get those from the FBI. We'll get the Gang of Eight material. And thanks to Congressman Doug Collins, even today, we will be getting all of that closed-door testimony, those transcripts from all the key deep state actors. And
I have had the honor of working with whistleblowers, whether they called themselves whistleblowers or not, but whistleblowers, starting as a prosecutor in New York City 20 years ago, working with folks while in private practice, and then now, great honor to do that again as the Inspector General of the Justice Department, and also leading the Council of Inspectors General, which was the umbrella group of all 73 federal inspectors general. We have, I use this example a lot, I have about 450 people working in the IG's Office of Justice. There are 100,000 plus people working at the Department of Justice. My folks know a lot about what's going on in the Justice Department, but my real eyes and ears are the 100,000 plus people who work at the Justice Department and who are grant recipients and work at grant recipients and contractors for the Justice Department. That's where I will find out what is going on day to day and what really needs to be done. We are working with the whistleblower caucuses up here, Senator Grassley's staff, Senator Wyden's staff on the House side, to effectuate a continuation and an updating and an improvement on the bill that already exists that created the Ombuds program. And we are honored to be able to do that. It is so important to show that support for what you all do.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions revealed today a federal prosecutor is investigating the FBI, but says he does not intend to appoint a second special counsel at this time. U.S. Attorney for Utah, John Huber, will work with Sessions, Rod Rosenstein, and the Inspector General on the probe. Meanwhile, Sessions still thinks he did the right thing, recusing himself from the Russia investigation. In an interview with Time magazine, Sessions said the head of the DOJ must follow the same rules as the rest of the department. Sessions' recusal led to the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel, who continues his 11-month investigation to this day. Joining me now, George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley. Good evening, Jonathan, and welcome to the program.
Thanks, Stuart.
No second special counsel. What do you make of that?
Well, he didn't foreclose the possibility of a special counsel. What the Attorney General said is that he is having a U.S. attorney essentially team up with the Inspector General within the Justice Department to investigate these matters. I actually think it's the right decision. I think the President should listen to General Sessions on this. He can appoint a special counsel later. If I were someone like Andrew McCabe, I would not be happy with this. You have a U.S. attorney outside of Washington who has the ability to prosecute cases, who's working with an inspector general who has already made findings against McCabe. That's not a good situation for him, and it's probably not a good situation for James Comey.
Do these prosecutors have the same power to investigate and get to the bottom of things that a special counsel would have?
Actually, yes. I think people are missing what may be a brilliant move here by Sessions. What he did is he essentially combined the powers of the Inspector General with the powers of a line prosecutor. So this prosecutor does have not just the experience and training to look for a criminal case, he has the ability to move a case of that kind. Moreover, if he finds that crimes were committed and that many people of the FBI might be implicated, Sessions has reserved the right to go ahead and appoint a special counsel. That's a powerful combination. There's a great deal here that we're still waiting for. The Inspector General still has the ability to refer McCabe for prosecution. What we know is that whatever was in that report of his led the FBI Director Wray to essentially force him into terminal retirement. It led Sessions to fire him. But if he in fact did lie to investigators or misled them, he could still be referred to for criminal charges.
I believe that the Utah prosecutor, Mr. Huber, and Michael Horowitz both are Obama holdovers, and they are investigating the Obama administration. Now, a lot of people would call that a sort of an implied conflict of interest. You don't see that?
I don't. I don't know Mr. Horowitz or Mr. Huber personally. I have certainly know of them. They both have very good reputations. Horowitz has already gone after McCabe. He is known as a dogged investigator. Huber doesn't have any skin in the game. He's not part of the Beltway. He's not part of what people usually refer to as the deep state. That distance between him and Washington is very important. I don't know of anyone who has suggested that either one of these gentlemen is a partisan actor.
Okay. These messages, the latest text messages between Strzok and Page, they appear to bring President Obama, the very top level of the administration, into play, if I can put it like that. Do you see it that way?
It may, and in fact, that's one of the reasons I think this is the better approach. If a special counsel were appointed, there would be a great deal of delay as we pursue these types of allegations. They're already pursuing them. They've got staff on the scene and able to acquire this evidence. People like McCabe were close to retirement, so time may be of the essence. So I do think this is something they must look at, and it obviously raises troubling issues.
I would like to say that, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Chris on his appointment as FBI Director. It's the #1 law enforcement job in the United States.
And we have an army, okay, as a soldier and as a general, as a retired general. We have an army of digital soldiers. What we are now, what we call, I call them, because this was an insurgency, folks. This was run like an insurgency. This was irregular warfare at its finest in politics.
Yeah, Ty Clevenger, he FOIA'd information from NSA asking for any data that involved both Seth Rich and also Julian Assange. And they responded by saying, we've got 15 files, 32 pages, but they're all classified in accordance with the Executive Order 13526, governing classification, and therefore you can't have them. But that says that NSA has communications, records of communications between Seth Rich and Julian Assange. I mean, that's the only business that NSA's in, copying communication between people and devices.
So any communication that I think happens, they're collecting. They collected this and they said it's top secret or secret, and
It's
therefore it is classified.
Yep.